Before we get started, I just wanted to say that this video is unofficially sponsored by A1 Comics, because that's where I get all my comic books. If you live in Northern California, check out one of their locations, and again, I cannot stress how much I wasn't actually sponsored by them. Enjoy the video. Hi everyone, I'm Will. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about something I didn't expect to. I was actually in the middle of writing another video, which I imagine will come out next week instead of this week. It was while taking a break from writing that one, however, that I came across the topic for today's video, which is the End one-shots that have been published this month by Marvel. After class the other day, instead of working on the secret video I mentioned earlier, I headed to my local comic book store, A1 Comics, to pick up some new reading material. From the publishing previews like a month earlier, I had heard about The End, and I was really excited about it. You know all those characters you love?
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
Adios!
Let's dance. And by dance, I mean let's try to kill each other!
Well, have you wondered how they f***ing die? This series of one-shots seeks to answer the classic question for characters whose adventures never stop. When will their stories come to an end? For the video, I'm going to be talking about the ones that I read, specifically Doctor Strange, Miles Morales, Deadpool, and Captain Marvel. By necessity, these stories all take place in a distant, typically very bleak future, where most heroes are long gone, and the title characters are required to make a final, noble sacrifice in order to save the world. Very minor spoilers from here on out, since I'm going to be running through each of the stories to talk about my favorite aspects, as well as some very light criticism for a couple of them. First up, Doctor Strange, The End. Doctor Strange, The End, written by Leah Williams and drawn by Felipe Andrade, takes place in, much like the other stories, a future that is a huge bummer. This particular timeline is very cyberpunk-esque, and features a society that has given up on and forgotten about magic. The art is very nice to look at, but my favorite aspect with this particular one-shot is the storytelling. I love seeing once great, noble characters in dire circumstances. See my previously mentioned love of The Last Jedi, especially for people who like The Last Jedi, like I did. And Doctor Strange being a sideshow magician rapidly running out of magic is really charming. I laughed my way through most of the pages, and the uplifting ending wraps up Strange's story pretty nicely. Overall rating, 8 out of 10. Next, I'll be looking at something near and dear to my heart, a Spider-Man story. Miles Morales, The End is written by one of my favorites, Saladin Ahmed, who's currently working on the stellar Magnificent Miss Marvel. For my thoughts on that series, you can watch the first video on my channel, but in short, I love it. Miles Morales, The End is drawn by Damian Scott, whose art I admire is very good, even if it's not really my thing. In it, Miles Morales, known as the Mayor, serves as the defender of Brooklyn, the last place untouched by a ravaged world full of monsters. His final decisions really reinforce the good heart that Spider-Man has to have, and I can't thank Saladin Ahmed enough for giving Miles such a satisfying ending. Once again, an 8 out of 10 book. Next up, America's favorite superhero, Deadpool, The End is an acid trip of a final story with like 7 different alternate endings, and some of the most wild visual art I've seen in a one-shot. No one, and I mean no one, writes Deadpool nearly as well as Joe Kelly. It's excellent that they got him back for such a meaningful story, and good lord does he deliver. In my personal opinion, Deadpool's story should make you think, what the hell did I just read? Once you're finished, and that's certainly true of this book, the art done by Mike Hawthorne also contributes to this feeling. Hawthorne does an excellent job of contributing to the absurdity of the words on the page, and it makes the comic a pleasure to look at. Not to mention, instead of starting in a post-apocalyptic nightmare world, Deadpool The End begins in a scene where Wade is in the process of killing death itself. The book ends up being really heartwarming in a way you don't really expect of a Deadpool story, and it works really well. My only criticism comes from a good friend of mine, who pointed out that you really need to know a lot about Deadpool's history to make any sense of the comic. That's half of my thumb, because this is an 8.5 out of 10. Finally, we'll touch on my favorite comic in this line. Early last year, we got a movie that ended up being surprisingly controversial given its utter lack of genuine controversy. Captain Marvel was a really fun movie, and it was one of the things that inspired me to start collecting comic books. My love for the character is why I love Captain Marvel The End so much. Given her immense power, something incredibly dramatic has to happen for Carol's story to come to an end, and dramatic this book certainly is. Written by the talented Kelly Thompson, it features art from one of my favorite comic artists currently working, Carmen Carnero. The drama of Thompson's story is beautifully rendered by Carnero. The comic is beautiful and touching, and it gives Carol the end she deserves. 10 out of 10! If you only read one book in this series, make it the Captain Marvel one. God, I love this book. So, I loved the end one-shots an awful lot. There are so few ends in comic books, and even if their individual books are still ongoing, it was really cool to see the emotional, dramatic deaths of the characters I adore. The idea alone would have been enough to carry these stories, but the writing and art are so amazing that they're elevated to something incredible. We're only a month into the year, but The End is far and away the best thing I've read so far. I urge you, if you can, to check it out. If you do, don't forget to buy it from your local comic book store because it's important to support local business, especially in the comic industry. And that's why I love Marvel's The End so much. Have you read the comics? Did you love them? Let me know in the comments below. Feed my ego by liking this video, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy my content. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next Tuesday.